America's most scenic drives. Join us in the western United States as we venture along our nation's most magnificent highways and byways. The open road beckons, and together we'll see and do it all. From the tropical paradise of Hawaii to the spectacular mountains of Washington State, and then on to the sparkling wonderland of Alaska. Along the way, you'll explore national parks that have inspired generations. Eureka, a quaint town of Victorian gingerbread houses, and even drive through towering redwood forests, all at your own pace. On this trip, you'll always be in the right place at the right time. Experience the incomparable Pacific Northwest, where wildlife roams free, and marvel at nature's wonders in the North Cascades National Park. And the adventure has only just begun. You'll discover Winthrop, Washington, where cowboys still ride into town, and cruise along the coast of wildest Alaska, where the lands are bounded by breathtaking ice fields. On this journey of a lifetime, all you need to bring is a spirit of adventure. So leave your worries behind and let us do the driving. Our adventure starts in America's tropical paradise on the Hawaiian islands of Hawaii and Kauai. The first route begins at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and leads north around the Big Island. These are the Hawaiian Islands, oases of green amidst the vast Pacific Ocean. Amazingly, the beauty and splendor of the Hawaiian Islands was born in a series of violent events. This tropical paradise formed as a string of volcanoes rose from the ocean floor. Fittingly, the first destination is Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, which covers 337 square miles on the Big Island of Hawaii. The road carries along Crater Rim Drive to the Kilauea Caldera. The Big Island is the youngest of the chain, having broken the surface of the ocean only 1 million years ago. Mount Kilauea continues to vent and erupt to this day. The awesome, destructive power of these volcanoes is made evident along Crater Rim Drive, a swath of desolation left from an eruption in 1969. But look closely, and an unlikely sight appears. Almost as soon as the nutrient-rich volcanic soil cools, life takes root. An amazing array of plants rise from the ashes. Traditional Hawaiians believe that Pele, the goddess of fire, resides in Mount Kilauea. At the rim of the volcano, they pay her tribute with dance and song. From Mount Kilauea, Hawaii's Route 11 heads north. Along this stretch, expect to encounter refreshing tropical rains. The eastern coastal town of Hilo receives over 120 inches a year, making it the wettest city in America. Just inland, the rain also feeds Rainbow Falls. Hidden behind the base of the falls lies a cave, and legend holds that Hina, the mother of the demigod Maui, lived here. Rich soil, plenty of rain, and a tropical setting combine to make Hawaii an exotic hotbed for plant life. The striking anthurium has become one of the signature flowers of these islands. Some of Hawaii's earliest plants and flowers were born here on the winds and waves from as far away as Southeast Asia. Over millions of years, they have evolved in remarkable ways, and more than 90% of all of Hawaii's native plants are unique to these islands. And the next leg of the trip takes us to a place so lush and green, it's known as the Garden Island, Kauai. Kauai stands at the other end of the Hawaiian chain from the Big Island. This is a realm of shady palm trees and blazing white beaches, long stretches of which are empty much of the day. The clear blue waters of these shores are the perfect place to snorkel or catch a wave. Jagged emerald cliffs and fanciful minaret-like formations are the result of volcanic activity, and the way these hills channel wind makes any sailing excursion a thrill. Further along Hawaii Highway 56, you'll come to Kilauea Point, the northernmost tip of Kauai. This lone sentinel has stood here since 1913, guiding ships around the rugged shore. A short walk to the lighthouse leads through a wildlife sanctuary rich in native birds, such as this white-tailed tropic bird. Kauai offers a diverse wealth of sights. And on the west side of the island, the startling rift called Waimea Canyon runs for 10 miles and is almost 3,600 feet deep. Millennia of wind and water have carved the canyon, but today, non-native goats are eroding these multi-hued hillsides faster than nature. On the eastern side of the island, the abundant rainfall feeds the Wailua River, the only fully navigable river in Hawaii. A quiet boat ride is a great way to explore the island's interior. On byways that lead to the coast, small roadside stands offer up a Hawaiian tradition of welcome. Garlands of fresh flowers known as leis. Hawaiians, a Polynesian people, first arrived here in double-hulled canoes more than 1,000 years ago. As the sun dips into the gold-dappled ocean, there's one more reason to pull off the road: a Hawaiian luau. It's a celebration that's part ritual and part entertainment. The performers use song and dance to tell age-old stories about Polynesian gods, history, and lives on these glorious islands. What a grand way to end this journey through America's tropical paradise. The next adventure starts back on the mainland, almost 3,000 miles east of the Hawaiian Islands. This route leads from Flagstaff in Arizona and skirts the Grand Canyon along Route 64. In northern Arizona, the aspen trees and arid landscape give no hint that one of the greatest wonders of the natural world lies just ahead. Driving closer, it's hard to catch more than a glimpse of the marvel beyond. Then, suddenly, there it is, the Grand Canyon. The park offers dozens of opportunities to pull over and behold the splendor of this place. The canyon bottom is a breathtaking drop of more than 5,000 feet and runs through the desert as far as the eye can see. Incredibly, the canyon is only about 6 million years old, a recent arrival in geological terms. It was formed by the mighty Colorado River channeling its way through the soft sedimentary rock. Leaving the car behind, one great way to navigate the steep canyon walls is astride sure-footed mules. They wind their way up and down Bright Angel Trail. The first Europeans to see the canyon were Spaniards under the explorer Francisco Vázquez de Coronado in 1540, but it would be another 300 years before it was fully explored. Much like Coronado, the first American explorers came in search of gold and wealth, but to no avail. Despite over a century of prospecting, no riches have been revealed. At the bottom of the canyon, a surprise awaits. Built in 1922, Phantom Ranch still provides a welcome oasis along the trail. Guests can stay here overnight in comfortable bunkhouses and cabins. At the trail's end, the Colorado River is a great place to take an ice-cold dip. It's hard to imagine how this seemingly placid river carved through so much stone. Soon, though, the river reveals itself as a mighty engine of erosion. And harnessing that force makes for a wild ride. The rapids and falls of the Colorado River are a whitewater rafter's dream. Despite desert-like temperatures, life thrives. Along the riverbanks, rafters can spot great blue heron fishing the waters and bighorn sheep clambering along the steep slopes and rocky banks. But even the wild Colorado River can be tamed. To the west of the Grand Canyon stands the Hoover Dam, one of man's most spectacular engineering marvels. The awesome power of the river is held in check by more than 6 million tons of concrete and steel. The dam's turbines supply electricity to 1.3 million people. At the end of the day in the canyon, the red and orange of the rock walls reflect the light of the sun as it begins to dip past the rim, making the air and water shimmer. Soft hues and gentle light belie the power of this amazing place. But as night approaches, it's time to move on to another journey. Our next adventure traces the gorgeous Pacific Ocean along Big Sur and Coastal Route 1. From there, the road heads inland to the wonders of Yosemite National Park. Big Sur, a place where steep cliffs drop hundreds of feet into the powerful Pacific Ocean, and the road hugs the mountain's many curves. One of the first European explorers, Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, sailed past these walls and declared that this was a land with mountains that seem to reach the heavens. Settlement along Big Sur's wild coast remains sparse to this day, and it wasn't until 1937 that this road, Route 1, was built, the first to span the entire coastline. And it's a wonder it could be built at all. Vaulted bridges and mountain-clinging roads make this a marvel of modern engineering. Along this coast at places like Pfeiffer Beach, the surging waves have done their own skillful carving, creating sea arches and blowholes. But even at Pfeiffer Beach, the ocean relents, allowing for a stroll. Stopping at this stretch of sandy shore, you'll find a great place to fish. The cold waters offshore are rich in marine life. Seals, drawn here by the fish, pull up onto shore to sun themselves. Pelicans rest between meals. Further along at the coastal cliffs of Byrne State Park, McWay Creek slips through the forest and plunges some 80 feet to the sea. From the magnificent Pacific and the jagged cliffs of Big Sur, The road heads from Coastal Route 1 and carries northeast to the heart of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It leads to California's Eden, Yosemite National Park, founded in 1890. This magnificent realm of lofty peaks, crystal clear waters, and forested valleys has inspired generations, from the naturalist John Muir to the photographer Ansel Adams. Hemmed by such famous sights as El Capitan and Half Dome, the Yosemite Valley sits along the west side of the 748,000-acre park. Roads wind along the valley bottom, threading between the granite peaks. Deeper inside the valley stands a grove of the oldest living residents of this grand landscape, the sequoias. As the most massive living things on Earth, they can grow to 300 feet and live incredibly for more than 2,000 years. Some trees have been known to sustain 6 lightning strikes in a single storm and seem little worse for wear. People have lived in this realm for at least 4,000 years. Although the local Native Americans called themselves the Awanichi, they were given the name Yosemite, and so the valley and park still bear this title. The Merced River runs through the heart of Yosemite Valley, and the pure, cold water that feeds from the Sierra Mountains above makes it the perfect habitat for trout. While some fish or sail beneath these majestic spires, others soar among them. But you don't have to risk life and limb to explore the park. Yosemite's trails draw visitors along some of the best riding and hiking paths in the world. Dozens of trails lead hikers along routes up to the pinnacles overlooking the valley. A few even climb straight up some of the highest unbroken cliff faces in America. The view from on top of Half Dome opens onto a scene sculpted more than 10,000 years ago in the last ice age, when only the very tops of these mountains, some over 3,000 feet tall, remained above the ice. The snow and glaciers of the Sierra Mountains are the source of much of the water that runs through Yosemite. The park consists of far more than its famous valley. An excursion into the Sierra Mountains beyond is rewarded by views of vast, open landscapes. They seem as pristine and untouched as when they were first set into trust more than 100 years ago. With the sun setting on this wondrous realm, the words of naturalist John Muir come to mind. He wrote that Yosemite is surely the brightest and best of all the Lord has built. The next stop on our journey starts on the California coast, 280 miles north of San Francisco at Eureka, and carries into Redwood National Park, then ends at Oregon's Crater Lake. This drive begins in the charming town of Eureka in Northern California. Named by an early pioneer in ancient Greek, Eureka means, "I have found it." Eureka is still an inviting hamlet to discover for yourself. As you pass along its roads, you'll find that more Victorian-style structures stand here than in any other American town its size. This was once a raucous frontier town, but today, Eureka and nearby towns are far more sedate, almost storybook. Crossing the threshold into the gingerbread mansion is akin to stepping back into America's past. It seems little can match late 19th century craftsmanship and attention to detail. The Victorians imposed their sense of order onto the outdoors as well. Their gardens reflect their desire to give order and structure even to nature. But a land that has never been tamed awaits just outside of Eureka along Route 101. This is Redwood National and State Parks. Only an hour from Eureka, it could be an entirely different world, one inhabited by giants. Close relatives of the sequoias in Yosemite, redwoods are the tallest trees on the planet. Some grow higher than the Statue of Liberty, Goliaths that may have taken root just as the first biblical accounts of the birth of Jesus were being recorded. Even in this land of natural skyscrapers, some trees stand out. A few are so massive, we can comfortably drive through tunnels carved from their living trunks. The redwood groves are a great place to get out of the car and walk around. Since 1968, this thin coastal strip of California has been off limits to loggers. Today, there are almost 50,000 protected acres of old-growth forest in these mist-filled valleys, providing a sanctuary for the rich diversity of life that resides in the mighty trees' shadows. Just outside of the park stands the little town of Crescent City, where the redwoods meet the sea. This is Battery Point Lighthouse. During high tides, the sea cuts Battery Point off from the mainland, and for a few hours each day, it becomes an island. From Crescent City, Route 101 leads north and east towards Oregon and Crater Lake. This peaceful setting belies the explosive event that formed this landscape. Some 7,700 years ago, a volcano called Mount Mazama exploded and collapsed in on itself. Today, the crater or caldera that is left behind is known as Crater Lake. Where fire once broiled, blue waters now flow. This is the deepest lake in all of the United States, reaching depths of almost 2,000 feet. Despite their otherworldly names, Phantom, Ship, and Wizard Island make for popular boating destinations. With the crater walls reflected in the surface, it seems as if these calm waters could be called God's mirror. And it is the perfect home for birds, such as this gray jay. The eruption of Mount Mazama must have been terrifying to the Native Americans living in this region at the time. Their legends tell of how the gods of the underworld and skies battled at this site. But today, it is hard to leave such a serene, beautiful setting behind. The next adventure begins just southeast of Seattle, Washington, at majestic Mount Rainier, and leads to the incomparable Olympic National Park. Mount Rainier's stature is so extraordinary, locals simply refer to it as the mountain. Dormant for now, this volcanic peak stands at the heart of Mount Rainier National Park, a singular refuge for the Pacific Northwest's diverse plants and wildlife. Reaching over 14,000 feet, Mount Rainier is the second highest peak on the entire West Coast. A lone giant, it towers above the Cascade Range. Starting at the mountain's base, Rainier is a great place to get out of the car and explore some of the park's 235,000 acres. As you begin to climb, water runs strong from the snow and ice melting on the slopes and falls in a glorious variety of cascades. The Park Service has cut trails that rise past ponds toward the mountain and into subalpine meadows tinged by a bounty of wildflowers. A breathtaking variety of plants grow here, from the delicate avalanche lily to the sturdy skunk cabbage. Climbing higher, there are fewer hikers, but some of nature's creatures do appear. Bobcat, bear, mountain goat, and even mountain lion make this sanctuary their home. Right up to the edge of Rainier's glaciers, flowers and animals flourish, taking advantage of the brief, warm months of summer. On Rainier's upper slopes, climbers find some of the most rewarding ice hiking in the country with breathtaking views. Flanked by more than 25 glaciers, Mount Rainier is capped with a greater volume of snow and ice than any other peak in the continental U.S. In all seasons, a host of heavenly clouds swirl around this unyielding peak. It's easy to see why Native Americans called this place the mountain that was God. As the sun sets, it's time to head for another temple of nature, this one even more diverse than Rainier. Many scenic drives provide incredible vistas, but few can match the combination of ocean and rainforest found in Washington's Olympic Peninsula and its national park. This leg of our trip begins on Rialto Beach, where our nation edges the Pacific. Surrounded on three sides by water, the Olympic Peninsula is a wondrous realm of rain, sea spray, and mist. Fog shrouds James Island, and waves carve out this formation called Hole in the Wall. Inland along the Hoh River are stands of virgin old-growth forest. Here the valleys trap the fog, moderating the weather and keeping it wet year-round. With as much as 142 inches of rainfall each year, this part of the Olympic Peninsula is a temperate rainforest, a fantasy land of fragile ferns and moss-covered titans. A giant of a different sort appears. Bull elk can weigh over 1,000 pounds and stand 5 feet at the shoulder. Olympic National Park was almost called Elk Park at its founding in 1938, and it's not unusual to find herds grazing peacefully today. Heading south, the road leads to Lake Quinault. This tree-lined, glacier-fed lake is a popular recreation destination for many locals. It's a great place for nature lovers, too. Bird watchers will likely catch sight of yellow-rump warblers and juncos. Back on the coast, the fog has lifted, revealing an ageless view of the sea stacks beyond. This shoreline has been home to Native Americans for at least 12,000 years. The Makah Nation's culture was based on the sea, and they carved dugout canoes from red cedar logs, using them to hunt and fish the waters. Today, their descendants still rely on the oceans and rivers for food, and continue to smoke salmon the old-fashioned way. A harbor seal and a cluster of gulls search for their own dinner as the sun sets behind the Pacific. Our next adventure carries us through central Washington state from the old west town of Winthrop, then west into the untamed North Cascades National Park. Only 200 years ago, central Washington was unspoiled wilderness. Along some of its byways, you can still find horses like these Clydesdales that help to turn backwoods into prime farmland. But if it's the old-time West you're seeking, Winthrop, Washington is a must-see. Winthrop has put on an early Western mining town look, hearkening back to the rowdy times when the West was still being won. Here, cowboys ride tall. And visitors can get a feel for what life must have been like 100 years ago. Heading west out of Winthrop, Route 20 leads into another realm where man has left few marks. On the border between Canada and Washington state lies one of our nation's greatest hidden treasures, a preserve that was set aside only in 1968. Known as the American Alps, the North Cascades National Park contains peaks that soar to frozen heights of more than 9,000 feet, as well as pine-covered valleys. In the Cascades, man seems to have made little impact, and much of this land is pristine. The road passes through dense, gorgeous forests. And in places, you'll literally drive through the land itself and into the heart of the Cascade Range. Here, Route 20 is known as the North Cascades Highway. It traces Diablo Lake, where a scenic overlook reveals the water's unusual green tint. Diablo Lake is fed by glacial streams, and it's a fine silt or glacial flour that gives it this hue. But even more wondrous sights lie ahead. Further west, almost at the park's boundary, towers mighty Mount Shuksan. A giant at over 9,100 feet, chiseled Mount Shuksan stands out even in a range that includes peaks named Mount Triumph, Mount Despair, and Mount Terror. What a great scene to end this tour of the lower 48. The final drive is to America's last frontier, Alaska. Starting in Anchorage, our route takes the Seward Highway east and south, then drives along the Sterling Highway through the Kenai Peninsula to Ninilchik. Almost from the instant you leave Anchorage on the Seward Highway, you encounter Alaska's rugged wilderness. And the road ahead leads to even greater wonders, a realm of vast mountain ranges, pure glacial streams, and endless ice fields. First, the Seward Highway traces an inlet known as Turnagain Arm, named by the famous explorer Captain Cook. Tides in this narrow channel can range almost 40 feet from high to low, and the waters race in and out. This trip through the North Star State continues along Route 1. Then into the Chugach National Forest. The road bores through the mountains and leads to Portage Lake. Here, many icebergs float on the water, calved from the mighty Portage Glacier that runs into this valley from between the mountains beyond. Farther south lies an even more massive body of ice and snow, the Harding Ice Field. This ice field covers some 300 square miles of the peninsula's interior, a glorious frozen wonderland of stark whites and dazzling blues. Fingers of the ice field dip into the Gulf of Alaska on the east coast of the peninsula, a gorgeous setting where mountains, glaciers, and sea converge. As the glaciers push down into the ocean, they give birth to, or calve, great chunks of ice. These break off and crash into the water. The smaller pieces can serve as an ice bed if you're a seal. This far north, the sun barely sets in the summer. And rivers and streams run strong in these warm months as the snow and ice melt. The Kenai Peninsula is famous for its salmon. In the spring and summer, salmon swim upstream from the ocean to spawn, using the gravel to build underwater nests. Amazingly, salmon return to the very same places they were hatched, somehow remembering the taste of the waters where they were born. A little fishing town stands just off the beaten path of the Sterling Highway. Nanilchik was one of this area's early European settlements. The first settlers arrived here from Russia in 1842. Russian Orthodox services were first performed here in 1846, and this church was dedicated on its present site in 1901. Today, even though Alaska became American property in 1867, many of Nanilchik's residents, population 597, carry on the old traditions. Beyond the outskirts of little towns like Nanilchik, the Alaskan wilderness quickly reclaims whatever men abandon. Even at the height of summer, temperatures rarely top 70 degrees here, and rain and fog often shroud the coast. But the very wildness of Alaska is what draws creatures like these majestic humpback whales. They are paragons of cooperation. Using clicks and trumpet-like calls, humpbacks seem to communicate as well as human beings. They travel in groups or pods and synchronize their movements to chase and capture krill and small fish. They cover great distances, migrating as far south as Hawaii. The same starting point as for this driving adventure. As the sun dips briefly over the horizon, a strange, fantastic light flickers, then begins to dance. It plays across the sky, marking the end of our trip. This is the Aurora Borealis, or Northern Lights, nature's most spectacular light show. What a stirring finale to this wondrous journey along America's most scenic drives.